I've got 13 surprising recipes that start with box cake mix. I'm gonna start by turning box cake mix into cookies. When I discovered this trick, I was blown away. They make the most moist and delicious cookies. And what's even better is that you can make any flavor cookie you want based on whatever cake mix you use. So I'm going to make strawberry cookies. And then it's just 2 eggs and half a cup of oil. No mixer required either, just stir it up. Of course, you can turn this into more ingredients if you wanted to stir chocolate chips or white chocolate chips in here. I pulled this trick out when my kids, on their first day of school, letting them think they would come home every day to warm baked cookies. That was a one and done, but it was still easy. And then straight onto a baking sheet. These are the kind of cookies that bake up a little bit like those crinkle cookies where the top is gonna be a little bit craggly. It's great if you wanna also make a little glaze or just dust with powdered sugar because they'll have all these little crevices to fill. Start to finish, less than half an hour because these bake at 350 for just about 8 minutes. Perfect little cookies. See how they get a little crackly on the top? That's what I like. Not necessary, but you can add a little finishing touch with a little powdered sugar. I've also done these with lemon cake mix and done a little glaze on the top. I've also done it with chocolate and I've added chocolate chips. Possibilities are endless. You wanna let them cool on your baking sheet for about 5 minutes before you take them off and let them cool completely because they are a really soft cookie. Like I said, this works with any flavor box cake mix. It needs to be in the 15.25 ounce box, but any flavor will work. But no matter what, they end up super soft like this. They melt in your mouth. These are to die for. And next up is cake mix, the secret to the best cinnamon rolls. This is the first time for me making cinnamon rolls with box cake mix. Something about using a box cake mix to eliminate certain ingredients, it just makes the process feel easier. So I do have a little bit of flour in a bowl. To that, you just add a pack of white cake mix. And that already has some leavening in it, plus a little bit of sweetness. So it's a little more flavorful than just all plain flour. Mix that together. Then I'm going in with a yeast and water mixture. I've already activated my yeast in warm water for about 10 minutes. Pour that straight in. Obviously that's still too loose, so we'll go in with a little more flour until it comes together. So we'll add flour about half a cup at a time until the dough pulls from the sides of the bowl, like this. Transfer it to a floured surface and then knead it until it's no longer sticky for several minutes. You end up putting about another 1.5 cups to 2 cups of flour in the mixture. At this point, I'm just gonna put it into an oiled bowl, cover it, and let it rise until it's doubled in size. Should take about a half hour or so. Doubled in size, and now we're gonna roll it out. The dough is so relaxed and soft. Get it into a rectangle about 10 by 16. Spread on softened butter. This gives the cinnamon and brown sugar something to stick to. Now an even layer of brown sugar, and then sprinkle on a couple teaspoons of cinnamon, and then roll it up. Kind of even it out, and then just slice it. At this point, the recipe states that you could dip them in a little melted butter and pecans. I like to keep mine simple. It's a good looking cinnamon roll. So we're just gonna place them in a buttered casserole dish and let them rise again for about 30 more minutes. You want them to be snuggled up together. Cover, let it rise. Cinnamon rolls have risen. And now these just go into the oven, 375 degrees for just about 20 minutes. I made homemade cinnamon rolls, golden brown and delicious. Now I'm gonna add a little icing because I like icing on my cinnamon rolls. This is just a simple frosting with some butter, powdered sugar, little milk, little vanilla. Just let it work it into the little nooks and crannies. That is a fluffy cinnamon roll. It smells so homemade, so tender and gooey. I'm really excited. They really rise when you bake them touching each other because then they just have to bake up. They don't have another choice. This is the fluffiest cinnamon roll I've ever seen. You know, I go straight for the centerpiece. That's a perfect bite right there. That is one of the most tender cinnamon rolls I have ever eaten. It melts in your mouth, and much to my surprise, it's not overly sweet, even though we started with a box of cake mix. We're doing these next two at the same time because they're super similar. We are turning cake mix into dump cakes and cobblers. Dump cakes and cobblers basically consist of 3 ingredients: a canned fruit or some sort of fruit, cake mix, and butter. That's all you need. The difference between a dump cake and a cobbler is that a dump cake is more cakey. It's got more of a distinct topping that is a little bit drier. It's almost like a crumble, but still super buttery and rich. And the fruit is a little bit thicker. Where a cobbler, it's just a little juicier. You've got a little more of a syrup with it. You could stop at the apples, but why when you've got caramel? Just gonna drizzle a little of this over the apples And then on goes your cake mix. This is very customizable. My grandmother used to do one with cherries and chocolate. Because this is a caramel apple situation, a spice cake mix works perfectly here. You just want to sprinkle this over the top in an even layer. Don't mix it. And then you just pour over melted butter. You're gonna be tempted to wanna like stir this and mix it together, but this kind of dessert really incorporates the power of trust the process. These bake at 350 until they're browned and bubbly. Usually takes close to an hour. For the cobbler, recipe calls for 2 peaches in syrup and you don't drain them. So again, this one's a little more like juicy. I always add in 1 extra can of fruit that has been drained. Okay, same process. Yellow cake mix here. This is one of the first things I ever learned to cook, period. Some may argue that this too is a dump cake, but it's not. Okay, this is peach cobbler. And I love this dessert because you can make it any time of year. I'm using a slightly smaller dish, so I didn't quite use the whole pack. And drizzle on that melted butter. Bada boom. I'm real excited about these. Get your coffee ready if you want to have it for breakfast. Get your ice cream ready if you want to have it for dessert. Dump cake, smelling divine. Peach cobbler. I think I'll have this for breakfast and dessert. We'll start with the dump cake for breakfast. Crumbly, gooey, and you get that cakey top. And you know what? We're gonna have ice cream for breakfast too. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put ice cream on this. I love a dump cake. Oh my gosh. The butter with the cake mix and the way it makes this magical crust, it's unmatched, but maybe matched by a cobbler. You'll see the difference that I'm talking about. This one is a little more syrupy. It's got the juice. And I like to spoon a little over the top after we put the ice cream on. You too can be only 3 ingredients away from this goodness. Look at that. Perfect bite. Something about the flavor of yellow cake mix, it just tastes like your childhood. Using a cake mix is by far the easiest way to make a cobbler. It's gonna be hard to top this, but watch how I transform a box of cake mix next. For my next trick, I'm turning a delicate, fluffy cake mix into rich, chewy cookie bars. First, I'm just gonna cream together a little bit of butter and brown sugar. All right, then mix in 1 egg and a little water. And then in goes the cake mix. Let you have the cake mix do it until it's just blended. At this point, you'll notice it's a lot thicker than a cake batter, slightly thinner than a cookie batter. It's easily customizable. You can stir in whatever you want. You could do the sprinkles, you could leave it plain. You could also use a chocolate cake mix here and do a chocolate cookie bar. I'm going in with some walnuts and chocolate chips. Just fold it in and then we're gonna spread it into the pan. A 9x13 that you've greased, I've greased and lined it with some parchment. And then you're gonna kind of like spread it into an even layer. It's really thick, so you just gotta kind of finesse it a little bit. These go into the oven, 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. It's just about 25 minutes, and these are golden and perfectly done. In order to cut these into true bars, you've gotta let them cool completely. You can lift it out, and they will cut so beautifully now. I feel like when it says bar, it's not a perfect square. It's more of like a rectangle. I'm also gonna cut off the edges just because they're like a snack for the chef. Perfect little cutie. It's tender. This is what I love about a cookie bar. You could also use the same recipe and make a cookie cake because it's so substantial and you can cut it into slices. You could also decorate the top of these with like melted chocolate and sprinkles. See, you can and should turn cake mix into cookie bars. That's perfection. That's what that is. Did you know you can turn cake mix into fudge and you can customize this for whatever the holiday is? This is gonna make great gifts and it's just a fun thing the kids could also make on their own. So you start out with some sweetened condensed milk in a saucepan. To that, I'm adding in a bag of white chocolate chips. And if I had to guess, you could do this with chocolate chips and chocolate cake mix. And then you're just gonna cook this over low heat until those chocolate chips have melted. And now take it off the heat and stir in the cake mix. We are doing like birthday cake fudge. So I'm going in with sprinkles also. This is when you can customize it. It's not the whole box of cake mix. You just wanna go in with about 1.5 cups. And that again is just a white cake mix because that's gonna be your most neutral flavor. Take an 8x8 pan, you can line it with wax paper or parchment paper and then add in your fudge mix. Kids would love to make this recipe. You can grease the back of a spatula, make it easier to spread out. It's gonna set up pretty quickly, so you can't dilly-dally. All right, then I'm gonna top it with just a few more sprinkles to keep it looking pretty. Christmas time, you can do the red and green sprinkles. 4th of July, red, white, and blue. Easy cake mix fudge. Now I'm gonna refrigerate it. You want it to refrigerate and let it set completely for a couple hours. Our fudge is done. Look how cute it is. We're gonna use our parchment to get this out of the pan. And you wanna cut it in little squares. Oh my gosh, that is so cute. That just feels like a party. This could not have been easier. It's a super affordable food gift if you wanna give it to someone, or food craft for your kids. I didn't think I was gonna like that this much. I thought it was gonna be too sweet, but it's just perfect. I will be doing this again. The texture is perfect. Up next, I'm gonna turn cake mix into brownies. I'm sharing my favorite brownie recipe that starts with German chocolate cake mix, and it's caramel brownies, and they are so good. So you may say, why don't you just use a box brownie mix? But what if you don't have one? Or what if you want something like a lemon brownie or a strawberry brownie? You can use that flavor cake mix, because they don't make that flavor brownie mix. See what I mean? In goes the cake mix. To that, I'm going in with some melted butter and evaporated milk. That's basically it for the batter. Then you spread half of this into your brownie pan. I've lightly greased. This is one of those trust the process brownies, because you put a super thin layer on the bottom of your pan. This is one of those brownies that everyone thinks is homemade, even though it starts with a box. But whenever you're making a brownie with the box cake mix, you'll notice that the mixture's a lot thicker than cake batter. So I'm just gonna par bake this for about 10 minutes. Now we'll spread chocolate chips over the warm cake, and then I'm gonna top it with this caramel sauce. It's just a mixture of caramel candies and a little evaporated milk. Then top it with the rest of your batter, and it'll spread out as it bakes. I told you gotta trust the process with this one. And now these go back into the oven for about another 15 minutes, and then you let them cool completely before you slice them. See the caramel and the chocolate peeking through that brownie mix. It's gonna be a good one, y'all. Let's cut some brownies. It's all about that caramel. Oh my God. I mean, look, gooey chocolate, gooey caramel. I'm telling you right now, it is all about the chewy caramel, the gooey chocolate, the just right amount of brownie. Y'all might need to leave me alone for this one. If heaven was a brownie, I think this would be it. Want brownies that everyone thinks you made homemade? Use your box cake mix and whip these up. And next, I've got the perfect cold treat. We're making one of my favorite developments, an ice cream cake, and it starts with a box cake mix. And for this one, we're gonna start by making the box cake mix exactly as directed. You can choose whatever cake mix flavor you want. I'm doing devil's food cake. Just gonna dump it into a mixer, water, oil, and eggs. And then mix it up. You're gonna pour this into 2 8-inch round cake pans. You're only gonna use one for this cake, or you could make 2 cakes, which is definitely cheaper than buying 2 of them. They don't have to be perfectly even because they're not going on top of each other. These go into the oven 350 degrees for just about 24 minutes. Cakes are done. You wanna let these cool completely, and then we'll build our ice cream cake. And now, if you know those ice cream cakes I'm talking about, they have the little chocolate crunchies in the middle. That's the best part. So you just get some Oreos, crush them up finely, and then you dump a whole bottle of Magic Shell right on top. I'm telling you, this is the secret ingredient. And then coat all of those little cookies in the mixture. And then when this chills next to the ice cream in the freezer, it hardens. It's so good. Okay. Get your platter to start building your cake. You've got your cooled chocolate layer. You're gonna take it out of the pan. I like the flat side to be up, and then you can kind of press down. That bottom will flatten as we build the cake. Then you put the crunchies right on top of that. That's what they're called, crunchies. It's a very technical baking term. See what I'm saying? How nobody's gonna care that this started with a box cake mix. They're gonna be like, how did you make that? Now, the really smart move when it comes to the ice cream layer is that you get another matching cake pan so that you know it's gonna be the same size, and just smush your ice cream down in the cake pan with plastic. So then it's already its own layer, and you put it right on top. Does not have to be perfect because we are going to ice it. See how cute? Trust me, it'll all come together. So at this point, you're gonna freeze it again, and then you can ice it however you want. I recommend a homemade whipped cream sweetened with just powdered sugar, and that's all you need. I've gone ahead and done that, so wait till you see what it looks like. I might have started something bad here, because if I bring this home to my kids, this is what they're gonna expect for every birthday. All we did was cover it with a little fresh whipped cream, freeze it, decorate it, freeze it again, and let's just see. It's all about the crunchies. Y'all aren't ready for this. There's no way you would want to make this cake with anything other than a box mix. Look at that. When I tell you it's all about the crunchies, it's all about the crunchies. Almost don't want to eat it. I'm so proud of it. I went in for that perfect bite. This cake is everything, and no offense to the box cake on this one, but it's not the star of the show. The soft cake in combination with those chocolate crunchies, that cold vanilla ice cream, and that creamy frosting, 13 out of 10. And speaking of cake, let's turn that box cake mix into your kid's favorite treat. It's time to stop paying too much money for dried up cake pops. You can make a bunch for about the same price as it takes to buy one. Take 1 box of yellow cake mix or whatever flavor you're craving, cook it up in a 9x13, and then we're gonna crumble it into a bowl. This is also a great thing to do with any leftover birthday cake because it's just cake and icing mixed together. You can take a store-bought cake with icing on it and just mush it all together. Kind of looks like cornbread right now. You don't have to break it up all the way because it's going to further break up when we mix it with the frosting. Did you know it was this easy to make cake pops? All right, so got your mixture like this. Before you can roll it up into balls, you want it to kind of come together a little bit more, so you pop it in the fridge for about 30 minutes. All right, after it's been chilling, with your clean hands, of course, you're gonna roll this mixture into balls. You want it to be pressed together pretty well. You want these to be nice and cold because now you're gonna dip them in melted chocolate, and then you want that to harden, kind of sets like a magic shell. I've just got some melted white chocolate. If you don't have a lollipop stick, you can just keep these as balls and call them cake truffles. Same thing. If you stick your stick down in the chocolate and then put it right here, it'll help it stick and stay in. You could always color the chocolates and make them pink or green or whatever. All right, and then go in with your pop into the chocolate. It helps if you put it in a glass or something deeper so that you can submerge the whole thing, and then you've got to rest it on something. You want to rest it vertically so that you don't have a flat spot. Otherwise, you just lay it down, but know that you'll have like one little flat spot on your cake pop. While it's still wet is when you want to decorate it. Just a few on top just to keep them cute. Then you can get a little piece of styrofoam, you can do a shoebox, something that you can poke holes in, and that's a good way to stand your sticks up. And then just let them dry. Cute, huh? And just keep going. You could do these with just that white crystallized sugar. Make these look like little snowballs. Look how cute these are. And this isn't even half of that mix for the same price as buying one. See, this is the difference between buying them and making your own, is that cake is still super moist. It's not all dried out, it's perfect. Now, let's see what I've got up my sleeve next. Yes, you can turn box cake mix into muffins, and I'm about to show you how. We're gonna do pumpkin muffins, so it's just a box of cake mix. I'm doing vanilla and a can of pumpkin. Straight in. And this is gonna be way cheaper than getting bakery muffins. This is one of those recipes where you're like, whoever thought of this sure was smart. All right, then I'm just gonna season it with cinnamon, nutmeg, and a little bit of cloves. If you've got pumpkin pie spice, you could just do that. Now we mix. Pumpkin has a lot of moisture in it, so even though it doesn't look like it's gonna come together, it will. 2 ingredients, no mixer required. This is so fast you can even whip these up on a school morning. Good to go. All right, then just fill up your muffin cups. Could easily do this as mini muffins too for a little brunch. This time of year is busy enough. When it comes to baked goods, we should take all the shortcuts we need. To really give these the homemade effect, I'm just gonna top them with a little bit of coarse sugar. You can just do a mixture of brown sugar or turbinado sugar, cinnamon, whatever. They're gonna really think we went all out now. Don't you dare tell anybody these are not homemade. These just go into the oven 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. These are perfect. I love the little craggly top with the sugar crust. Just gonna let them cool. Could also stir chocolate chips into this. My kids love pumpkin chocolate chip muffins. At this point, it's safe to say that cake mix can be whatever it wants to be when it grows up. Gosh, it's so soft. It's moist on the inside. A little bounciness. Does it taste as tender as it looks? Y'all won't believe it. Tastes just like a pumpkin muffin. The muffins are perfect. We're gonna keep with the breakfast theme and make donuts next. Cake mix into donuts, why not? Simple mixing instructions, a box of cake mix. I'm doing vanilla, 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of milk, and a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. It seems like you can turn a lot of different doughs into donuts. It might be hard to top when I made donuts with the canned biscuits. Those blew me away. you should check that one out if you haven't. Now, the difference between these donuts and the others is these are not deep fried. However, you could take this mixture right here and just drizzle it into oil and call it a funnel cake. But for our donuts, I'm going to do baked donuts. And so you do need to have a donut pan. All right, so I'm going to add it to a piping bag. You don't want to overfill your donut pan. 2 little swirls around your donut pan. One thing's for sure, this is a lot less messy to make donuts this way. Now, these should sit in your pan for like 5 to 7 minutes just to rest and get acclimated. And then they go into the oven, 350 degrees for about 10 to 12 minutes. Donuts in no time. You want to let them rest in the pan for about 5 minutes before we glaze them. And for the glaze, I'm just doing a simple chocolate glaze. You could just do powdered sugar and milk. I'm in a chocolate kind of mood. No big deal that they weren't deep fried when they're covered in delicious chocolate. Because we just put in minimal wet ingredients, these are nice and sturdy. They're really holding up to the glazing process. If this was just a piece of cake, it would really fall apart because it'd be too tender. Some sprinkles if you wish. This is the kind of treat that's just perfect because you can customize it however you want. And I'm all about customizing things, especially if you're having some sort of theme party. You can totally make these for whatever occasion. You want to let it sit for just a minute till that glaze sets. The moment of truth, while it's not deep fried, does it satisfy the donut craving? Let's see. It's tender. Because it gets kind of toasty all around, it makes it almost like a savory version of a cupcake. It's more of an old-fashioned donut. Of course, I'm gonna always prefer the deep fried version, but these sure were easy to make. I'm gonna show you one more way to serve up cake mix for breakfast. We're gonna turn cake mix into waffles. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't done this one before, so we're doing this one together. Make this like the instructions call for in the package. I'm choosing vanilla cake mix, oil, eggs, and water. Doesn't get much easier than that. Waffle iron ready, in goes our batter. They cook up pretty fast too, just a couple minutes. Look at those beauties. They're quite perfect. Is it cake or is it waffle? You could get the funfetti flavor. Serve this up for a birthday breakfast. They're a little softer, a little more tender than a regular waffle. But if you wanted them like toastier, you could now pop them in the toaster, I think. Top it with a little butter to add a little savory note to the sweet, but then a little more sweet with some syrup. And I'm gonna serve this up more breakfast style and less dessert style by adding on some fresh berries. Cakes for breakfast? Say I can't do it. Perfect bite. I thought it was just gonna taste like cake, but it doesn't for some reason. It does kind of taste more like a pancake than a waffle, but with the waffle look, maybe it just tricks your brain. That's a good one. I've got one final trick and we'll pour in that cake mix in a glass. We're making milkshakes. Why would you do that, you ask? Because it's a great way to thicken up your milkshake a little bit, make it a little more indulgent without having to add triple the amount of ice cream. There is one rule when it comes to this. You first have to heat treat your cake mix. You've got to kill any possible bacteria that could be in flour. This is the same way if you made edible cookie dough, you would have to toast the flour first. It's just something you do. So 350 for about 10 minutes in the oven, that's all it takes, and then let it cool. Then you can keep this in a container for when you make milkshake. It's just a good little hack. I'm going chocolate because chocolate milkshakes reign supreme. However, you could do a birthday cake shake, vanilla, again, whatever cake mix you want. Add them in with a little milk and a few tablespoons of our cake mix. Always add more. And let it rip. That is thick and creamy. That's a perfect milkshake if you ask me. That's a good hack. And a cherry on top. This one's thick enough, it's gonna need the big straw. Oh, that's one of the best milkshakes I've ever made. The cake mix does just kind of like tie it all together. It almost binds the ice cream with the milk a little better, so it's not icy at all. It's just super creamy, perfectly thick. Cheers, y'all. We have done it. 13 delicious uses for a box cake mix. No matter the flavor, you're only one box away from countless possibilities. Which one of these hacks are you gonna try first? I really want some French fries to dip in that.